Well, thanks for joining us for a very special grand final edition of Queenslander as we count down to Sunday's decider down there in Sydney. And we've got a big chance of having a Queensland team win it. In fact, a 50-50 chance, almost more than a 50-50 chance, because Melbourne Storm, they're technically a Queensland team with the amount of Maroons boys they've got. But as we get ready for the grand final, our hearing's adjusting a bit here in Brisbane. Boys, after that Suncorp Stadium crowd, you've experienced plenty of Origin games there. That was almost like an Origin atmosphere. How would you describe it?
Well, it was easily the best atmosphere I've ever experienced at a Broncos game.
Yeah.
There was a lot of Broncos in the crowd, a lot of Broncos jerseys, and you know, you get used to Origin at night time, but the daytime just changed the dynamics a bit. It was incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was easy to be very excited while we were sitting there watching the crowd go absolutely nuts to provide and present plenty of support for the home side. And I think it really did inspire the players. It was quite obvious just how much value it was worth on the day.
And talking to some of the Broncos players, especially the back three, Karapani, Walsh, Mariner, they said it was so difficult to hear each other. Guys, you would have known playing big game. How hard does that make the communication?
Mate, for me,
yeah, with
really
your
hard.
voice, yeah,
really hard. I used to use sign language sometimes. But, I think Freddie mentioned it a couple of times on the call. It was loud.
Yeah.
And yeah, as a fullback, you're constantly telling your players where to go, and so if you can't get the communication through, it's frustrating and could be high risk too.
Yeah, and for the players from south of the border, for them to say it was like Origin, it had to be loud. It was something quite extraordinary, and it just wasn't a noise that the visitors from over the border noticed. The players, they were wonderfully inspired by that, and it took them on to some wonderful heights. And hopefully, they got to be able to realise just how good they were on the day.
How telling do you think the crowd was in the make-up to the finish of that game? Because to me, one of the real pivotal moments, it happened in front of you, Lockie, when you're sitting on the sideline, the Ezra Mam getting into Nathan Cleary with that late hit, Liam Martin runs in. That really lifts the crowd, and it almost has a flow-on effect to the Broncos players.
Yeah, well, at the start of the game, they were loud, but obviously by half-time, Penrith had done the job and they'd quietened the crowd down. But then I agree that was a bit of a trigger point. The melee, and then what happens there? The crowd gets excited, the players feed off the back of that, and then Reynolds kicks through for Katoni Staggs, and they get more excited, and then so you get these moments where the crowd are just waiting for, and once you get them, it's and the players feed off it.
Yeah, they certainly do, Lockie, and the value of that is you just can't measure it. It's fantastic, and I think the players look at each other. They realise just the support that they're all getting, and they get that roll on. And it's wonderful to see the inspiration that each and every player had about his game. It was something quite extraordinary, and the noise that was there after the full-time hooter went, that was something that it would go close to Origin, or perhaps some will say that it beat Origin levels, but. The way that it did inspire the players, and you could just see the self-belief that was on show. That was at an extraordinary level for the Brisbane Broncos.
What does it do for their belief overall too, Lockie? The four-time defending champs, 14-0 down at half-time to get back and beat them. Is there almost a sense after that of like, we can do anything?
Yeah, look, and you throw in the Canberra game.
Yeah.
Ideally you don't want to be 14 behind at half-time because their opponents this weekend are very good winning from in front. But there was a stat that was shared with me earlier in the week, gives you an indication of how much the Broncos had to dig deep for this. Since 2020, when the Panthers have been 12 or more points in front in a game, they're 98-0. They have
almost 100%.
Almost,
yeah.
Well, they are 100%.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, almost 100 out of 100. Yeah.
So for the Broncos to break that duck for Penrith, it just goes to show you how much they had to dig deep for it.
Oh, wow. That's something, Lockie, I'm glad you brought that up, but it was something that I think will inspire the players. They know what they've been able to achieve, and that's something that will certainly light the fuse.
And heading into this grand final too, what about the 2023 grand final? Does that get spoken about, or what learnings do they take away from that?
I don't think it gets spoken about. I think for the players that played in that, it becomes motivation.
Yeah.
You know, they get another opportunity for those. We worked it out as 11 players, including Jesse Arthurs.
Yeah.
So I think deep down there's a burning desire with those players to, you know, right or wrong, so to speak. But I don't think it gets talked about. They're playing a different team. You've got a different coach, and there's a few players that weren't part of the 23 squad.
Yeah.
So it's different.
Yeah, that's right, Lockie. And you've only got to have 2 or 3 different players in a side, and basically the whole structure of your game is completely different. So I think that's the last thing for them, and Madge will make sure that that's one point that they're very well aware of.
I think the best thing for the Broncos is getting into a grand final via beating the Panthers. So you exercise those demons as opposed to playing the Panthers in a grand final. You maybe got that in the back of your head, but now that you've done that, you've exercised the demons completely.
Yeah, I think that was an extraordinary game on the weekend.
Yeah.
And they're going to need every bit of that ounce of that mental fortitude they show again this week. But yeah, I guess, like I said, Penrith don't lose those games when they're 14 in front. So they achieved a hell of a lot on Sunday, and they've got an opportunity now to get the job done again this week.
I don't think they'll have the same percentage of crowd support that they had, but when you're playing in Sydney and you're up against another side that's not all that well liked, I don't think there'll be much of a problem for Brisbane.
Well, the Storm played just as good as Penrith. They play the same game. They just get you in an arm wrestle and strangle you.
Who do you think the crowd will be supporting more?
I actually think just on the back of what we saw on Sunday at Suncorp, I think we'll see a lot of Brisbane people making their way down. I think you'll see a fair contingent of Broncos fans there on Sunday.
Yeah, the Sydney people mightn't be all that keen on Broncos when they're playing, but they like them a little bit more than they do Melbourne Storm.
Yeah.
After having seen some of those games, Melbourne Storm matches, they cop an absolute spray from kick-off till full time, and Sydney people don't like the Victorians, and that will be coming out. And with so many guys in the Broncos side that are playing, probably one of the biggest games of their career, I'm sure that they're going to get a whole pile of support from the Sydney fans.
Who would have thought Sydney fans cheering for the Broncos?
Yeah,
What happened in your day?
Yeah, no, I can guarantee that, Lockie. That never would have happened in my day. I think that the word that rhymes with Wally's a banker may have came out quite a few occasions.
I think there'd be more goodwill around the Broncos from the casual fan too, because of the premiership drought. It's been nearly 20 years since you last captained to the last premiership in 2006. The Storm have had a lot of success. Just as Aussies, we like an underdog story more, and you get the sense the Broncos are more the underdog coming into this. The Reece Walsh factor that gets the casual fans into loving the way he lights it up. So, I think the crowd will be more on the Broncos side. Yeah. And interesting too, Lockie, you mentioned that Raiders game. For mine, this whole final series, premiership race, turns on its head when the Raiders request to play that Sunday afternoon game at the Broncos. I get the sense, so the Raiders were up 14 or 16 points in that game. 16. Sin bins to Carrigan and Walsh. If that's a night game in Canberra, how much harder is it to come back at night? Because it's different conditions, it's greasier, especially down in Canberra.
Geez, you've thought about this.
Yeah.
You've thought about this.
It's like a turning moment
turning point.
in the entire season.
Well, that's what the Bronx are capable of when they have to play footy. Now, Penrith didn't allow them to do it like the Raiders did, but the tries that they scored were just from effort, hard work, really.
Yeah.
Except for maybe the last one when Reece put it over and then Mariner scored. But, look, I mean, the other stat was something ridiculous around Nathan Cleary hasn't lost a game in the
I think that was 26 in a row leading into it, and then he finally lost a game during the day. So, yeah, incredible. And their defence, you can tell, Broncos' goal line defence is a lot better. Well,
in the end, that's what won them the game. If they let in any try in that second half, without the last try from Mariner, I think that's almost enough to say game over for Penrith.
Yeah, I agree with you, Lockie. I think it would have had a snowball effect. One try, it would have put Brisbane under enormous pressure. It might have been another one that came along, and when you concede 2 tries in the second half, it might have been enough to ensure that that the opposition were going to be just that little bit too good. But it was a wonderfully brave performance, and I think it certainly gave them plenty of self-belief and will inspire the players to bigger and better things this week.
And Storm have always been the bogey team for the Broncos, but how beneficial do you think that last round of the regular season was to get the monkey off the back? Yeah,
again, so they've ticked a couple of boxes there, beating Penrith, and I thought the Melbourne game was their best performance all year.
Yeah.
I looked at the stats in round 23 when Melbourne beat them 22-2, I think it was. Brisbane completed at 62%. In round 27, they completed at 90%.
Yeah.
Yes, look, Jerome Hughes didn't play down in Melbourne. Jerome Hughes was back for the game, but he only played 25 minutes. Harry Grant didn't play the last time that they met. So there's a couple of big inclusions there for the Melbourne Storm.
Yeah.
But that they'll take some, I guess, confidence out of that win in round 27.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there, Lockie. A couple of very important points, especially with Harry Grant. When he's not in the Melbourne side, they're still a fairly good side, but they're nowhere near as good a team as they are with him.
Yeah. And on the coaching, let's have a look at that too. Madge, how much credit does Michael Maguire deserve? Because he took over the team, didn't even make the finals last year. Now they're 1 win away from winning the premiership. They were 12th last year, turning him into a premiership force. What does he do?
I think we just talked about the goal line defence late in the game. Like, the other thing I was a little bit nervous about was the fact that Xavier, Ezra and Adam hadn't played for a while.
Yeah.
But, so I was a little bit worried at the back end if it was an arm wrestle that the match fitness for some of those players would have been a telling factor. But they hung in there.
Oh, geez, they had a go.
Yeah. And I think that's what Madge has brought to that team, is that sort of mental fortitude, particularly in their defence.
Yeah. And Joey on Freddie and the 8th the other night, he actually said, had Madge not put them through that gruelling pre-season, they may not have won on Sunday. Like the long-term benefits of, we talk about the vomit buckets and the like, and players collapsing at training. How much is that a long-term plan that's played off?
Well, it's the physical component to it. The fitter you are, the better decisions you're going to make for longer periods in the game. Fatigue, obviously, that's when errors come into your game. The mental part of it, though, if you're continually pushing yourself beyond your limits, it becomes a habit.
Yeah.
And that's what it looked like with the Broncos late in that game.
Yeah, self-belief. It came up, and the players, as you say, the habit was a huge, or was on display enormously, Lockie, and I agree with you there. But you could just see the confidence that existed from the players, and I think when things started to go a little bit haywire. They reacted in the best possible way possible. They really had a go, and it made the opportunities for the opposition so much tougher to get over the top of.
It was interesting over summer too, because this Channel 9 offices at Mount Qlder, and a lot of the Broncos road runs are up there. So you're driving to work on, like, in January or February, and here's Reece Walsh and Pat Carrigan or Adam Reynolds on his horses, Selwyn Cobb on the side of the road. Did you guys do the Mount Qlder runs, or was it more the Gap in your day?
We did the Gap.
Yeah.
It was an 8K run. We used to finish with Heartbreak Hill, but the first 1.5 Ks was uphill. But it built resilience, and it built. If you're working harder than your opposition, you're going to have an advantage.
Yeah.
You hear Madge all the time talk about Melbourne Storm and Penrith training ridiculously hard.
Yeah.
It's not a coincidence that they're always at the top of the ladder or playing in grand finals.
What do you think Madge's messaging will be around this week? Well, like, you've played in big games, you've played in grand finals, State of Origin. Like, from a coaching perspective, how do they usually handle it?
Yeah, well, I haven't played under Madge, but I should imagine that it would be sticking as close to the game plan as they've got in place. Trust your mates which is an enormous thing in big match football. You look at the guys alongside you and you trust them 100%. You don't want to be doubting them at any stage throughout the course of the game, and putting the game plan into effect and sticking to it as much as possible to place the all the pressure on the opposition. And it mightn't work for a little while, but the more that you put that into play and demand that the opposition must produce their best to even stay in it, I think most people will question, what have the opposition got to do with it? Well, if you're placing enough pressure upon them, they're going to be the ones that fold.
Yeah.
Look, I think just know your game and back it.
Yeah.
And we talk about big games, they're won and lost in moments of the game, so you need to be... We talk about an Origin a lot, you just got to keep moving when the ball's going away from you, because you never know when you're going to be called upon. Yeah. That could be the difference between winning and losing.
Yeah, well, just to embarrass you a little bit, Lockie, I mean, I remember watching back in some of those big games, and it was an enormous pressure that was on display out there in the field, and you'd cart the ball up and just try and look for a little bit of a gap throughout the course of the game. If it presented itself, well, that was a little bit easier, but very few occasions in finals football are you offered chances by the opposition, and it's the leading players in the team that inspire those around them. And if you can just get half a break, that's enough to inspire the teammates. It really is. You've only got to make half a break and put the opposition on the back foot a little bit to inspire those around you, and you make the most of those chances.
Yep. A lot of intriguing storylines personally for players leading into this one, guys. One of them being for a few of the older boys in the Broncos team, the experienced players in inverted commas, but the redemption arc of Ben Hunt, 2015 grand final, almost a decade to the day, wrongly blamed for costing them the premiership with that knock on, to 10 years later potentially going from being, it's almost like watching a TV mini-series. Like he was the villain, he's gone through, he went away, he's come back, potentially could be the hero. Like, how amazing would that fairy tale be for Ben Hunt to see that on Sunday if they lifted a trophy?
Well, there was a couple of guys I was really happy for after the game, and obviously one of them was Ben Hunt. The other one was Paddy Carrigan, because I thought, him sitting there watching that, that would have been a difficult pill to swallow if he wasn't able to,
Yeah.
He would have felt like, I couldn't help my team on the day, but yeah. But for Ben, it's like a fairy tale, it's like a fiction story.
Yeah.
Like a decade on, gets another opportunity, and he tackled himself into the ground on Sunday. You could tell it meant so much to him to win that and get to another opportunity.
He's come up with a couple of big plays this year in big matches. And it's been interesting to see the expression on his face. He doesn't get too carried away. He'll wait till full time till he celebrates too much. But you just can't waste the experience that's on display from him. And I thought it was another very impressive game on his part.
Do you think that 2015 grand final factors into his thinking at all this week?
It's a bit like the 23 squad. I just think it's motivation, right? Because Ben has not won a premiership yet.
No.
So this is maybe his one and only opportunity, maybe.
Yep.
So it's 80 minutes of your life that you just got to give it everything you got for 80 minutes, because it's something you'll love for the rest of your life.
Oh, yeah.
Another one of those too, Adam Reynolds. So I love the fact that he stood up and took that conversion too. What were you guys thinking about that?
I was actually watching. It was his explanation of how he felt throughout the course of that, and it was terrific to listen to. The pressure that was on him, how he felt it, how he'd missed a similar one that was very costly, and he's got a whole pile of experience on board that he's learnt from one of the few mistakes that he's made in his life, to be able to do that and see the way that he slotted it through. To be honest, I couldn't kick goals, but I'm damn glad that I didn't get the opportunity to ever try. And Lockie, you've had the chance to be able to do that in some enormously tough games, pressure-wise, and I can just imagine he would have felt his heart pumping. It would have been absolutely pounding away, but at the same time, he would have been thinking to himself, settle down. I've kicked plenty of goals like this in my life. I've kicked ones that are much tougher, much more difficult. this is what I've got to do, and go through the process. Okay, I'll move away, approach it at this angle, swing through, always keep your head down. And when he was talking about that, I thought it was just a 100% perfect description.
Yeah, he said he had to take the emotion out of it. There was another stat going around that Adam Reynolds started the Penrith dynasty, but he finished it too.
Yeah. 2021, he throws that intercept pass, ironically at Suncorp Stadium, that Rabbitohs-Panthers COVID grand final. And then, and he's the guy who takes the championship belt off them eventually.
Yeah. So, but, you know, there's been some famous kicks from that sort of... You got Daryl Halligan. There's... Al Masri's kicked one. I think Joey always talks about that one. The Mick O'Connor State of Origin one. You might
Thanks for bringing that one up. That's good, Adam. I'm glad you brought that up.
The old school balls.
Right from the sideline.
But that one, you will never forget that one.
Yeah.
It's a chance for Reynolds to bury some demons too, because by his own admissions, 2023 wasn't his greatest performance. He had the chance to ice the game. He had some disappointing kicks there too. So it's really a chance for him to make amends.
I think for those guys like, you know, Hunt and everyone that played in 23, and for Adam, there'll be things that after those losses they would have gone, I could have done this better, I could have done that better. So that's a learning part. You just got to put that in the back of your mind and put that into your preparation this week. So it's not something that, that's going to distract them. It's just something that they've learnt from, and hopefully they put measures in place to try and prevent it from happening again.
And Adam, rugby league fans are always a little bit nasty in some areas. I mean, he didn't lose it on his own. He, came up with a mistake that he will carry around for a long, long time. But certainly, he's a player that puts in an enormous role and has won plenty of games for the Broncos by the same token.
What about how fresh-faced he is now with no facial hair? He looks weird. I was talking to him post-match. He said he tried to trim the beard himself but made a mistake. So he said his regular barber was down in Melbourne watching the AFL Grand Final. He likes to get like the pre-day shave.
Might be a good idea to try and get a shot of Lockyer with a beard now, and me with my beard. I used to have the beard here, but it was all white on top of the lip. It was a pretty ordinary beard I had, I know that.
So it was a shaving mistake for Adam Reynolds. That's why he looks fresh-faced leading into that grand final. So hopefully he can replicate his 2014 grand final winning heroics this time for the Broncos instead of the Rabbitohs. One huge benefit in this grand final for the Broncos, Lockie, Payne Haas. Like, you guys have played alongside some great props. Like, where does he sit? Like, he's still one of the best of all time.
Well, I've always said Glenn Lazarus was the best. And you look at his record, he's won premierships at 3 different clubs. I don't think anyone else...
Nobody's done that.
And he's won 5, 6 premierships. So that's just the missing piece for Payne. But his engine is the biggest I've ever seen for a prop. And just his work rate. We talk about... you mentioned this before we went on air, but that he was the one I sort of didn't... I just remember Cleary... I was watching Cleary with the ball to try and get the 2-point field goal, and it was obviously they stuffed it up, getting the ball to him in time, but I didn't realise it was Payne Haas that
puts the pressure on him.
So he has to force the offload. But then there's the one where he goes back for a kick late.
And he dives on it. He diffuses the situation.
Lazarus used to do that. Lazo would be in cover defence. Lazo would jump on ball. So got great anticipation for the game. But I just marvel at his work rate.
Oh, he had an enormous work rate. Played in some great teams, and I think a lot of the people say, he was only playing for the teams that were on top. Well, they were on top because he was the prop forward. He was a wonderful player. And the other bloke that I used to enjoy watching in big matches was Andrew G. A solid performer, did extremely well, and it's the big boys up front. They don't mind reminding 5'8" especially, that we do all the tough work for you blokes to take the glory street. But it's vital that they lead the way, and certainly that's going to be the case once again in the big game.
Andrew G's daughter, Jess, works in here as one of the producers. She was working on Sunday. She had the 1998 Broncos jersey with the number 10 on the back too. So maybe that was the good luck charm that helped push them over the line.
He was a very good player.
Wonderful player.
He always had in his eye, a bit of madman about him.
Yep.
He liked it
Yeah, he sure did. And I used to say he was one of those blokes that he could honestly play against his mother and he'd bash the living daylights out of her and wait till full time and then say, sorry about that, Mum, I was doing it for one particular reason, to win the game. How you going? How you feeling? But he was, I often ask the blokes in functions that I do, who was the best that you saw in these positions, and certainly that that pairing was one of the best. Andrew G and Glenn Lazarus, they performed wonderfully for Brisbane.
And as you mentioned, Lockie, the big important recall, I guess, for the Broncos. Paddy Carrigan comes back from suspension. Unfortunately, it looks as though Ben Tolte will be the player who makes way. We recorded the show before the teams are announced, but it looks as though he will fall out for Carrigan coming back in. But how important is a dominant performance from the Broncos forwards against this big Storm pack to go towards winning?
Well, I guess the Storm play very much a similar style to Penrith. They just get you in the arm wrestle. They kick to the corners and they just don't let you out of your half. And that's what Penrith did for the first 40 minutes the other day, and that's what the Broncos are going to need to be prepared for again. So winning, for Penrith, it's like the back five's the forward pack. They just get them on a roll, and then the forwards just wait till they come past and then they chime in.
Yeah.
And I think that'll be the key this week too for the Broncos, is trying to mitigate the back three for Melbourne Storm so that they can win that first tackle and second tackle, because if they win that just allows them to try and win the field position battle.
Yeah. And while there was a bit of sledge of sorts early in the week, Stefano Udu-Ikamanu, one of the Storm prop forwards, he's come out and he's called the Broncos stuck up. He said, there's a few players in that team I don't like playing against. I won't name names, but they're just a bit stuck up.
Yeah, right.
So what do you guys make of that? Is that like mind games, or do you like hearing that? Bit of old school banter?
Oh, it inspires the opposition. Players love to hear that when given a spray. I'm sure that the Broncos players will be just putting that on their locker and having a look at it just before they go out onto the game. But to be honest, if that's the nastiest that they can get just by calling them names, I think we've got a little way to go, and we might hear all about some other names that get called. Usually, loser is the most painful one that I think that you can, especially after a grand final, if you can just take that out on the opposition. So I don't think it's going to worry our blokes too much, though, at all.
Yeah,
I think Craig might have had a word to him after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't throw petrol on the fire.
Yeah.
I always love it when a prop forward does it as well too. So he'll get it off the kickoff potentially, or he'll be involved in the first tackle. So guaranteed fireworks from the get-go.
Well, one of the things Paddy was doing really well before he had that week off was his line speed and coming out and picking a few targets.
Yeah.
And getting stuck into them. So that might happen.
Does it well.
Yeah. So where do you think the Storm threaten the Broncos the most? I noticed a lot in that Sharks win for Melbourne in their prelim. Munster was doing a lot of damage running the ball a lot. You get there and you almost expect him to pass it out the back, but he almost takes a lot more hit-ups than you expect.
Yeah, I guess that's it, Adam. There's plenty of it there, but if they've got one benefit, they're more common when it comes to being big match performers.
Yeah, okay.
They've had more experience, and I don't think that's going to be the thing that controls the game by any means. But certainly they do have a little bit of experience on board, and they've had quite some experience playing under a coach as well, that those players know exactly what Bellamy wants.
Well, I reckon Craig would have had a chat to Cam Munster before that game, because I think he was a little bit quiet leading into that in the series, and I reckon Craig told him, you're going to run the ball more, and that's what he did.
Yeah.
That makes them more dangerous. I think the biggest threat from the Storm is in the air from the wings. Because the last time we played them up in Brisbane, there was pretty much 4 or 5 penalties that we gave away.
Yeah, deliberately. Yeah.
So, and you give away penalties time after time. So that's a real battle for the Broncos and how they handle that air attack.
What about a lot of these Broncos players have played in Origin with some key members of that Storm team? Do you think that will help them trying to defend them, the likes of Munster, Harry Grant, Xavier Coates, as you mentioned, just having a little bit extra intel?
Yeah, I think the coaches would have done a lot of study on the players they're playing against, and they would have talked to the players about how to deal with them. So, yeah, I guess some players that have played with them would maybe share with the coaches some of the, the strengths or the insights to those particular players, and then the coaches will come up with a plan on how to handle it.
Yeah, I agree, Lockie, and I think we may see Munster running with the ball a little bit more than he does in the early stages of Origin footy, and he'll want to inspire those players around him. And this game's a little bit different, but he certainly has got to be stopped, because in the matches that have led up to this one, he really has been the fuel in the Melbourne tank. He's worth his weight in gold, and certainly sees himself now. And I probably think that he's going to be extremely confident going into the game. It may be falsely so, that why he's so confident, but I still think that he'll be leading from the front.
Yeah, what an incredible story it would be for Cam Munster if they do win the premiership, following the tragic passing of his dad mid-year during the Origin series. He captains Queensland to an Origin victory, and then potentially could lead the Storm to a premiership. So, just your grand final tip. Who wins, and maybe a score prediction?
I guess the other thing we overlook a bit, we talk about the Broncos trying to redeem the 23, but the Storm were the beaten team last year.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of guys there motivated too. Look, obviously the heart and the head is going with the Bronx, but it won't. I'm tipping a try, like 6 points, maybe 7. 7 points to the Bronx. Are we picking a man of the match?
Yeah, Clive Churchill medalist.
Churchill. Katoni Staggs.
Oh yeah, I like it. Another try for Katoni. He's in good form.
Well, Adam, I'm aware that I'm a chronic Melbourne Storm fan.
Yeah.
Probably think that the man in the number 6 jersey will certainly lead the way from them. They've got some good finals experience, but I'd love to see the Broncos win it.
Yeah.
It's been a wonderful season for them. Man of the match. Well, the number 7 jersey seems to be very dominant in the big games, and I think it will be all again this time around. I think Adam will lead the way.
This is a genuine divide for you, right? Being an inaugural Broncos captain.
Is my nose growing?
Yeah,
is it starting to...
the Storm, you always talk about how impressed and how enamoured you are with their style of play. So it's pulling at your heartstrings.
I'm a chronic Melbourne Storm fan. I love it, but I really would like to see the Broncos win. Yeah. They put in an enormous season, and what they've been able to achieve throughout the course of the year, playing against sides that most rugby league followers would say that they're way better than the Broncos. Well, if they're way better than the Broncos, how come the Broncos won the game and they're sitting here playing off for the title? Yep. That only comes from those players that are prepared to put in their best efforts and come up with performances that will be spoken about for decades to come.
Yeah. I think I've tipped against the Broncos for both their finals matches, and they've won. So I think Broncos fans would probably hope that I'm tipping against them again, because I'm the reverse curse. I keep tipping against Brisbane and they keep winning. So with all your Broncos supporters out there, with that in mind, I'm going to tip the Storm to win. I'm going to tip Ryan Papenhuyzen to have a big game. Former Clive Churchill medalist who stood up in the past. Probably been a little bit quiet this season. So Ryan Papenhuyzen is my Clive Churchill medalist to go with what Wall and Lockie said. Also, chance for the double for the Broncos too, to win the NRLW Premiership and the NRL Grand Final. They'll take on the Roosters, but they're going to have to do it the hard way. The Roosters have won 17 straight games in that competition.
And he just won their last one.
Yeah.
So easily the best 2 teams have made it through to the Grand Final. There'll be some... there's some great attacking players on both teams, so that should be a very entertaining game. And look, the girls, I think the last time they won was 2020.
So they were the dominant force early on, but it's been a while.
So it's been a bit of a drought for them too. So good luck, girls. I hope it's a successful day for you.
Yeah, I'd love to see the girls win as well. The opposition, they've won a whole pile of games on the trot, and I think their coach probably wouldn't have been all that upset had they lost a game about 4 matches out from the finals. He would have known that they would have had to repair their game and come up with the best performances. So let's hope that the Brisbane girls get home.
Yep. Special mention to the Burleigh Bears capturing the Queensland Cup on the weekend, ending the North Devils' dominant reign. So the Panthers dynasty ended, the North Devils dynasty ended. So you'll see that as part of Nine's grand final day coverage. The Burleigh Bears against the Warriors, who won the New South Wales Cup in that state championship game. And speaking of the Queensland Cup, I was out there the week before, and one of Selwyn Cobbo's mates from Cherbourg, I was chatting to him. Alex loves the show, watches the show every week. I told him I'd give him a shout out, but he said, instead of giving me a shout out, can you give the Cherbourg Hornets a shout out, because they won the Queensland Murray Carnival a couple of weeks ago up there at Brendale. So congratulations to all the Cherbourg Hornets players there. And as Queensland continues its reign as the sporting capital, hopefully we get 3 victories on Sunday afternoon. Could be 3 Broncos victories, because the Burleigh Bears are a feeder club there too, Lockie. What a day that would be.
It's a big day for the club. Very rarely would you get three clubs.
It's almost that old school feel.
Yeah, old school, yeah. So I think something for the club to be proud of.
Yeah.
Let's try and get 3 from 3.
Yeah, and congratulations to the Brisbane Lions players also, just continuing that theme of just the title town, renamed Brisbane the title town if the Broncos get up as well.
What a wonderful win that was. A fantastic performance from them, and never looked like losing.
I know a lot of people not that long ago had a Lions Broncos
double.
Whoa!
I know a lot of guys cashed out half time on Sunday.
No.
So,
The true one for the true believers on Sunday night.
To win it, boys.
Oh, come on.
Well, thanks for joining us. It's been a great year on Queensland. Stay tuned. Channel 9, your home for live, exclusive free coverage of all the grand final action. As we count down here on Wide World of Sports, can the Broncos break their 19-year premiership drought and defeat the Storm on Sunday night?